Hello, you beautiful people. I think all of us just collectively saw the drip marketing for March 7th's 5-star form, and if you haven't seen it yet, you can go check out the community post of my channel because by the time you're watching this video, I would have definitely posted it there. So, I'm guessing by this point, all of you have definitely seen her drip marketing and now you're interested in her kit and her overall playstyle, right? Well, in this video, I'm mainly going to discuss all of this info that you're curious about, like her preliminary kit, her playstyle, and her best team synergies as well. Along with this, I've heard some rumors going around that Evernight will be a sub-DPS specifically made to be played in a Castorice team, and I'm going to address this particular piece of information and tell you whether it is true or not. Before we begin though, this is kind of like a tradition, and I do this whenever a new drip marketing is released. So continuing this custom, how do you feel about her new design and her drip marketing as a whole? Personally, I'm a bit biased as I love March quite a lot, and I like her new 5-star forms design as well. If you're planning to pull for any of the new characters though, you might want to check out Lubar because on this site you can save up to a total of 25% on all your purchases. To give an example, I'll buy this 3280 Nyric Shard pack for $43, and this same pack costs me about $50 from the in-game shop. You can see that it's cheaper, right? For the top-up process, just enter your UID in this box and choose your respective server depending on your account. After waiting for a few minutes, I received my Jades with the double top-up bonus because it was my first purchase. If you use my link, which is in the description or the pinned comment though, you can get an extra 10% off on top of all the other discounts. Okay, starting off, Evernight is going to be an ice-type unit who follows the path of Remembrance, and she is supposedly going to play the role of a main DPS on your team, while also having some sub-DPS capabilities as well. As of now, we don't have her full preliminary kit or anything super detailed, but there's been a lot of small info drops, and in this video, I'll be piecing them together to give you a pretty solid idea of what her full kit might look like. Honestly though, based on what we do know, I feel like her actual kit would be really good, and she would probably be one of the most versatile DPS units in the game. Alright, I think rather than hearing me glazing Evernight, you would probably much prefer to hear the details on her kit, so let's move on and take a look at that. First of all, from the in-game stuff that we have on her Divergent Universe Golden Boon grants buffs, depending on the number of ally targets that you have on the field. In simpler words, this means that you'll likely want to play her with other Remembrance characters because only Memosprites are counted as ally targets, and you'll want to have as many Memosprites as you can on the field. This also matches up with the new planar set that they released in the current patch, which is this one right here. Basically, this set will buff the wearer depending on the amount of ally targets that are present on the field, and I feel like they designed this planar set really well. It's the best in slot set for Finon, because it gives him a 36% damage buff for 3 missing allies on the field, and as you all know, his ultimate removes all of his allies from the field upon use. Now, as for Evernight, this set is likely going to be best in slot as well, because it will give her and her Memosprite a 36% damage boost for having 4 additional allies, or I guess you can say 4 Remembrance characters on the field. If you're like me and are 100% sure you're going to pull for her, you might want to start pre-farming her planar set as well. There is a small chance that they release a new planar set for her, but in my opinion, this chance is almost negligible because this planar set is already really specific. I would say though that her kit is really interesting because Evernight is going to be our first character whose entire kit is based around her own and other Memosprites, and she'll likely get damage buffs from her kit based on the amount of Memosprites that you have on the field. This also makes her team building rather specific because instead of using the best supports, you'll likely be better off using Remembrance units with her. Thinking positively here, this gives her a lot of potential to grow in the future as we continue to get more and more characters with Memosprites like Cyrene. Now, according to a really reliable source, March would be an AoE-type DPS who will be able to enhance her own Memosprite, and she will function as a sub-DPS in a Castorice team. Again, this ties really well with the idea of Evernight potentially scaling based off the amount of allies present on the field, as Castorice already has Hyacinth in her team, and both of these units are Remembrance Path characters. As for the last slot, you can just use RMC, and this team consisting of Evernight, Castorice, Hyacinth, and RMC will easily be able to fulfill her 8 ally targets condition because all of them are Memosprite users. You can potentially even use another team buffer like Tribi instead of RMC, while sacrificing a little bit of Evernight's own self-buffs from having 8 ally targets. In reality, I would expect Cyrene to be the final piece of Evernight's team and her dedicated support who will buff her to the moon. Now, personally, I don't think Evernight is going to be a typical sub-DPS because her solo damage is likely going to be very strong. She's a HP scaling unit, which makes her synergize perfectly with three of the strongest characters right now, namely Trivi, Hyacinth, and RMC. Also, keep in mind that she will be able to buff her Memosprite as well while dealing AoE damage, which will make her a super flexible DPS unit who can be used to fulfill different roles in the team if needed. Moving on, the last thing that we know about her kit is her gameplay loop and how her kit will function in a battle. Okay, try to imagine a scenario where you're using March as your main DPS in a team with RMC, Hyacinth, and Cyrene. Now, I know that we have no idea how Cyrene will summon her Memosprite on the field, but I feel like that's not really important right now, and all that we need to know is that she is a Remembrance unit, which means she has a Memosprite. Alright, so once you enter the battle, make sure to summon all your other Memosprites first before summoning Evernight's Memosprite, and this step is actually super important for a very particular reason. Basically, whenever you summon her Memosprite on the field, it will attack immediately after being summoned, and then leave the field while giving a little bit of healing to the entire team. I think some of you might have already connected the dots, but just in case, because her Memosprite attacks right away, you ideally want all your other Memosprites already present on the field. That way, Evernight's Memosprite gets the maximum buff from having 8 ally targets present. This alone pretty much confirms that she's going to be an action-based DPS who will need a lot of turns to summon her Memosprite as much as possible, because that is quite literally her main damage output. Now, if she really does work like this, sadly it means that she won't have complete synergy with Sunday, as her summon would disappear before he can buff or even action advance it. On top of that, he doesn't help her meet the 8 ally targets condition either, since he is not a Remembrance unit. On a side note though, a very sketchy info suggested that her Memosprite weirdly has the ability to target 2 enemies, and if this turns out to be true, she would be the first character in the entire game to have this. I know this is most likely just a translation error, but this could indicate us that she might have a blast ability in her kit as well as an AoE ability, which would make her great in both single target and multi-target content. Well, there you go. That's all the info that we know on Evernight's kit for now. Overall, I feel like they made a really interesting choice with her kit's design, as she is both a main DPS and a sub-DPS depending on what team and scenario you play her in. Trust me though, she will most likely have a really strong kit, and even if she doesn't, I'm pulling for her anyway just because she is March, and skipping a March variant is not a concept I'm familiar with. Also, if you ended up watching until the end, you might want to consider subscribing as well. With that being said, I love y'all, and I will see you in another one.